Part 1, wherein we dispel the myth that found footage is strictly for amateur or first-time filmmakers. Number 6.
Just pretend like you're playing.
Is everything all right?
We're just playing! Do you want to do the interview?
What are you doing? I thought we were staying away from them, Becca. You're gonna interview him?
Mom told me you worked in the coal industry for a long time.
I did work in a factory.
I know.
Worked at night. Saw a white thing running around.
A white thing?
Yeah, used to run around the factory at night. Only I saw it. Started telling people about it, and they didn't believe me. Had yellow eyes. Then they fired me. And nobody talked to me.
Mom didn't tell me that.
Notorious for some of the absolute bombs that he has laid since he established himself with The Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan is an undeniably well-known director. And it was this found footage film, The Visit, that kind of brought him back to form. The premise involves two kids who are sent to visit their grandparents. Now, the grandparents have not had a good relationship with their daughter, but they want to have a relationship with their grandkids. The creepy premise is that because the mother of the children hasn't been very close with her parents, she doesn't really realize the shape that they're in. And it turns out that the couple tend to do what is referred to as sundowning. When the night comes, when the sun goes down, their mental illness kind of manifests more. Their confusion and aphasia and senility kicks in, and they become highly unpredictable and strange. This makes an already stressful visit more stressful for the two little kids. And honestly, if not for a, rapping little kid and the, typical Shyamalan trying to go for a twist ending, I think that The Visit works way more than it doesn't. The strength is the premise and the execution, and of course the very strong performances of everyone involved. Also, fun fact, Mr. Shyamalan's early hit Signs has a jump scare, probably one of the scariest moments of the movie. That is a found footage sequence set at a children's birthday party. The Visit is a movie that plays on a lot of fears and a lot of trends of the modern society. How self-obsessed these kids are. How much they documented themselves before the creepiness sort of kicked in. They just sort of accidentally captured this horror movie in the background because they're busy documenting their own lives. The older daughter is doing a school project and she does want to get to know her grandparents. That was part of the reason that she wanted to do the trip. But I think the movie sort of plays on the video-obsessed generation. And it also, of course, plays on the fear of growing old and the weakness and sort of deterioration of both body and mind, and how you can fundamentally change the person that you are, just time. They say time cures all wounds, but it also sort of kills everything, doesn't it? I've often said nothing is more frightening than a ticking clock, and people rebuke it, but time, like your family, like who you are, there's nothing you can do about it. I think these are some of the more deep themes that Shyamalan's ever really played with, and the fact that he consciously chose to do a found footage movie when he had behind him done, big budget sci-fi with Will Smith. He adapted The Last Airbender. He made a hilariously incompetent movie called The Happening. The Visit brought this all back, reminded us that, if he wants to, he can really creep us out. Shyamalan is a talented filmmaker, which is why it's so frustrating that increasingly he makes less and less interesting films. The Visit reminded us that he had more to offer. If you haven't seen The Visit, it's worth it. It's worth a look. It's definitely worth your time. It is not The Happening. It is not The Last Airbender. It's interesting, and it uses found footage very well. So I think you've heard of M. Night Shyamalan, and I think you know the reputation of The Visit. So that's number 6.
Within 3 more days, our death rate will quadruple. Within 10 days, it will have risen by 100%.
Before, there were, I don't know how many people died every minute. 8, 10, 20. Now there were 5 times as many, 10 times, 100 times as many. Dead, but walking. There weren't enough bullets to stop them all.
They are monsters. Monsters who prey on the flesh of the living.
We needed supplies, gas. Without gas, we weren't going anywhere.
Number 5 is the 2007 film Diary of the Dead, directed by George A. Romero. Diary of the Dead is a controversial one in the Romero canon of zombie movies. A, the found footage format, obviously, people can react strongly to. And B, George Romero decided to hit the reset button for this movie. It's not a direct sequel to Land of the Dead. It is a sort of reboot. A bunch of film students making a mummy movie in the woods hear reports over the radio and on the news that a strange plague of zombies is happening, and they react to it by trying to get to their various home places or safe places to sort of wait out the catastrophe and sit in front of the televisions and see what happens next. I don't think this is the found footage movie that people are going to be won over by. It has the misfortune of coming out the same year as Wreck, which is one of the greatest zombie and found footage movies simultaneously. So it kind of got eaten by Wreck in that regard. And I think in order to enjoy Diary of the Dead, you have to A, be a Romero fan, and B, kind of forget the found footage. I talked earlier in the introduction about the integrity of the vision, and there is problems. You do find yourself asking, why is he recording this? Why is this happening now? The narration can be distracting. So I recommend, if you want to watch Diary of the Dead, just look at it as a zombie movie. I feel like Romero felt like he was breaking new ground, but really people had already kind of got there before him. I was glad to have another zombie movie, and I certainly don't think Diary of the Dead is the catastrophe that Survival of the Dead was, but it has its problems. It also has its fun. There's some great zombie kills in this movie. There's some good sort of aside sequences of just the zombie apocalypse. You have audio cameos from people like Guillermo del Toro and Tom Savini and Quentin Tarantino. Tatiana Maslany shows up here in a before she was super famous role. There's a lot of interesting stuff to be said and to find within Diary of the Dead. But I think it's for aficionados, I don't think this is where you start. You get to Diary of the Dead. But George A. Romero, as far as horror movies, is kind of huge. And he didn't have to do a found footage film, but apparently it was something that was in the works even as Land of the Dead was happening. He wanted to take a forced perspective look at zombies. It was another way he could revisit the zombie genre and, to him at least, find a fresh take. I know a lot of people had a hard time with it, especially on first pass, but I think in a world where a lot of zombie movies are coming out every week, Diary of the Dead stands out well enough. Faint praise, I know, but number 5 is Diary of the Dead.
Actually, I think it would be better if we didn't have the music while we're actually recording the interview, because the music makes it hard to edit with.
It's my favorite tune.
Who is this?
I don't know. During my decades of research, I have discovered over 40 different species going to and from the marrow. And that's just from the half dozen or so entrances that I've found.
A half dozen or so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they always out in the woods or near a creepy cemetery?
Sometimes in the woods, sometimes in a cemetery, and sometimes in other places. The IHOP.
IHOP.
Adam Green might not be a household name necessarily, but if you're a genre appreciator, I think that you'll bump into him sooner or later. Most renowned probably for the Hatchet series. He's been in and around genre cinema for 15, 20 years now. What I respect about Adam Green is his willingness to try different things, to varying degrees of success, but he's willing to weave out of his comfort zone. He's tackled psychological thrillers. He's tackled over-the-top slasher movies. He's done a sort of survival experiential horror movie called Frozen. And then there's Digging Up the Marrow. It took 5 years for this production to come together, and it sort of came about when Green kept on getting fan mail, that some of it which was kind of creepy. Although some of the art was very, very impressive, some of it was equally creepy. And he thought maybe he could find a story in this. And I think that's the good and bad and interesting thing about Digging Up the Marrow, is it's a movie that was finding itself as it was being made. Which isn't to say that it wasn't carefully scripted. I mean, apparently the improvised feel is just that. There were choices made, there were decisions made. But what I really enjoy about Digging Up the Marrow is this idea of the other world right in front of us, all around us, that, you know, if you know how to look, there could be a monster in any given room. And I also love the design of the creatures that we get glimpses of. They're so over the top that it feels almost like they belong in Labyrinth or Beetlejuice, you know. If you were to report sighting one of these creatures to a police officer, they would just automatically dismiss you as delusional and insane. So, in a lot of ways, it's a fairly ambitious movie, and like I said, it's a different swing from Adam Green. We follow him as he interviews increasingly strange fans and finds his way to a, quote, monster hunter who says he can prove that monsters exist. It's worthy of looking at, and I think that Adam Green hopefully will keep on experimenting. I was very disappointed to see him returning to the Hatchet series with Victor Crowley, and have had a personally bad experience with the product of the disc. I've had 2 discs of Victor Crowley, and both of which the sound mix is really, really bad. It's unfortunate. Plus, I don't know if we needed another Hatchet movie, and there's rumblings of yet another to come, and I don't know, it sort of feels like Adam Green is announcing he's a little bit out of ideas. In the same way, I keep on hearing Kevin Smith announcing, you know, Clerks 3, Mallrats 2, Jay and Silent Bob 2. In a way, it's sort of like, ugh, we're out of ideas. What I like about both of these filmmakers that I mentioned is when they, you know, take big swings. And love it or hate it, Digging Up the Marrow was a big swing. And I mainly love it. There are some bumps in the road. I think it's always weird when you're playing yourself in a movie, and more often than not, the actors tend to lean on the asshole side of the characters when they're playing themselves. They like to play sort of an uglier, meaner version of themselves in a way that's sort of self-aware and amusing. But if you want real protagonists that we can sort of care about and get behind, I mean, the focus should be the story, and maybe not necessarily loving everybody, but giving them a goal and giving us something to cheer for. What it really works at is looking out the camera in these dark landscapes, and where's the creature going to be? Are we looking in the right place? Are we going to get a glimpse? And that's where the movie really pays off. And it's an interesting, out-of-the-way creature feature from Adam Green. And it ranks number 4.